Very
morning.
good morning,
Good
Mr.
morning,
Suresh.
Sai ma'am. Good
Good morning,
morning.
Monica.
Good morning, Sai ma'am.
It's
Our
really
Vice
nice to
Principal, Sai
have
ma'am,
all
has
of you
joined
up
us.
here on the webinar.
Thank you.
Monica ma'am, Suresh sir, Anju ma'am, Anupama. A very pleasant morning by our teachers for an open forum discussion with children to enhance skills is really appreciated. Thank you so much for being a part of it, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Glad to join you.
Yeah. Do we have all the participants in? I guess Snigdha ma'am has also joined us.
Yes.
Monica?
Yes,
Ma'am,
Snigdha ma'am, has Snigdha ma'am joined us?
Yes, ma'am. She has joined us.
Ma'am.
She's there with us.
she's there with which ID? I don't see her.
Hema,
Snigdha
Hema,
ma'am.
Hema.
Okay,
No.
okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we are going to
I
start in
guess
a
most
while,
of the
ma'am.
children
Just
are
I'm
already
waiting for.
in.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can actually, I guess, start off Anupama ma'am
Yes,
because
ma'am.
it's already time
Yes.
and most of the children have already joined in.
Yes. So a very good morning to one and all present here. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome Dr. Snikta Sachdeva, Meridian School, Madhapur Principal, Mrs. Sai Setiki, Vice Principal, Meridian School, Madhapur, Mrs. Sunita Sorepalli, High School Coordinator, the eminent key speakers of the day, Mr. Suresh Kochatal and Mrs. Monica Arora, students and teachers of different schools pan-India. I welcome you all on behalf of Commerce and Humanities Department for today's session, Atmanirbhar, a roadmap to entrepreneurship. I'm sure it is going to be a great learning platform for each one of you. I hand over now to our very young, dynamic, and multi-talented grade 12 student, Shravika, to introduce the key speakers and take the session forward. Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed today's session.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. My name is Shravika Vadadi, and I am currently a 12th grade student in MERIDIAN, Madhapur. Welcome to today's webinar, Atmanirbhar, Road to Entrepreneurship. The Indian economy is one of the fastest growing economies in the world and is an emerging superpower. But ever since the coronavirus hit, our economy has been in a downward spiral. Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan is a stimulus package introduced by the Indian government worth 20 lakh crores, aimed towards mitigating the loss faced by the economy and also reviving it and making it stronger than ever. Atmanirbhar translates to self-reliance. So this means self-reliance of the supply chain, self-reliance and empowerment of the poor, the laborers, the migrant workers, and the self-reliance of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Today we have with us as our guest speaker, Mr. Suresh Kochatal. He is a social media activist who reveals to challenge the system. His role spans the political spectrum of developing razor-sharp online reports that involve instant retort, which seek to correct the media's twisted stories. He used to be a hotel management professional who worked with the Taj Group of hotels and later moved into media with a 16-year-long stint with the Times of India. Mr. Suresh is the director of HYBIS, an online business channel, and is also on the advisory panel of the BJP IT team in Telangana. He was part of the social media team in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections and worked extensively in Varanasi. Later on, he was involved in the 2019 Lok Sabha polls in Telangana and Kerala, covering the BJP campaign. One of his passions is to create a meaningful difference to the lives of the less fortunate, especially in improving the quality of education in government schools. Also with us today is Ms. Monica Arora. She joined as a Hindi teacher and has grown to a leadership position as the head of global partnerships here at MERIDIAN Madhapur. Ms. Arora has a postgraduate in business management and is a certified life skills coach. She has 17 years of work experience, 10 years in the corporate world, and 7 years as an educator, and with many laurels to her name. She has been awarded the Inspirational Teacher of the Year Award 2019 at the global platform Teach a Man to Fish UK for her contribution in development of business and practical skills among students. She represented Telangana State at Pariksha Pe Charcha 2.0 for an open discussion on examinations with Mr. Narendra Modi. She was also awarded Best Teacher twice by the International Institute of Hotel Management Hyderabad and Lakshyam Educare Chennai. One more thing before we get started, I kindly request all the attendees to remain on mute and refrain from asking questions during the meeting. There will be an allotted time for a small Q&A session at the end. So let's begin. Mr. Kochatal, please go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the lovely introduction. And just to give a brief, and the brief is already given actually. My wife is also a teacher, by the way. She was a teacher rather. After 22 years of teaching, she gave up finally because of a severe back problem. My wife used to teach mathematics at Srinidhi, at Oak Ridge, and later at Suchitra, and then DPS. So I come from a background where education is given a lot of prominence. We have only one daughter, and she graduated out of. She was a product of the Indus World School, Sainik Puri, and then she graduated out of Manipal Institute of Communication. She did journalism, just like me. I wanted a background in journalism rather. But she went on to work with Uber, and she worked for 4 years with Uber HR, and now is working with an Indonesian company called Gojek. That is a brief introduction about my family. So I can sympathize and empathize with all the teachers, the students who are all on this particular webinar today. I'm a guy who loves to speak, and I do a lot of speaking, public speaking to be specific. But what I didn't want to do today was to put up a presentation, because quite often what happens in a presentation is that the students get attracted to the presentation part of it and forget what is being spoken. So last evening I gave up the idea. This idea came from my wife. Don't try presentations because it doesn't really work with children. They go on. And these days she does a lot of online teaching for students. She does tuitions for them. What is Atmanirbhar Bharat? Now, it's a very fancy term. Now, everybody around the country, in various ministries and around the Indian embassies all over the world, talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat. In a sense, what is it? The word is explanatory. It says what it says. We need to be self-reliant as a nation. For almost 60 decades, we have been a nation that is pampered to socialism. Now, many of the students here won't understand the impact of socialism, but I'm sure the teachers understand that. We were a nation which the Indians are such that even if you're driving a Mercedes, you will bargain for tomatoes with the vendor. So that's the kind of people we are. But what has happened in the last decade, and ever since Mr. Narasimha Rao came in as the Prime Minister, we saw the opening up of the Indian economy. We moved from a license Raj to a competition Raj. And we moved as a nation to become a power, as the girl who introduced me, the student who introduced me said, that we were a nation that is a superpower. We still are actually. It's not that it's only India which suffered in this pandemic. Every other nation suffered. Many of you actually worked from home during this particular pandemic, right from March 27th when the lockdown was imposed. But I've been on the field every day except for Sundays and one day Vishu, which was, since I hail from Kerala, that was the festival where I took off. But I've seen up and front every industry in Hyderabad. I've gone around, interviewed more than 100 people during the last 4 or 5 months now, and asked each one of them, the industrialists, the hoteliers, students, teachers, everybody, as to what is their impact of this pandemic. What do they think of this pandemic? And that one major factor that comes out is we need to be self-reliant. Cut-off time there. So let us look at this fact as such, as to what are we? What is Atmanirbhar? Atmanirbhar is to stand on your own feet. Now, many of us consider standing on one's own feet as being the next Bill Gates or being the next Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, or whatever it is, or even to take the Indian example, the Bansals of Flipkart, or the Infosys bosses, everybody. But I think beyond it, beyond all that, is a different world altogether. Because many of us are not born that rich, that we have a great grandfather who's a rich grandfather who can sponsor us to get into a Stanford or an Oxford or a Cambridge. But beyond it, we need to understand that even the neighborhood panwala makes more money than you and me. The pakoda wala, the people who sell the stuff on the roadside, sometimes we may ignore them, but actually they are real entrepreneurs. They are the ones who survived this pandemic. And I really tell that it is the neighborhood kirana shop wala who actually kept all of us alive through this pandemic. No doubt the big stores were open, but it is these small people who really helped us survive this pandemic. So we need to talk about Atmanirbhar. It is the art of survival. And I want to tell the children here that, you haven't seen competition. You are still in your school. But once you get out of your school and you can ask your teachers this fact, it's a dog eats dog world. And as they call the law of the jungle is very simple. Only the fittest will survive. The elephant could have been the king of the jungle given its size, but it is the lion who's the king for very, very obvious reasons. Okay. So one needs to understand, that self-made persons are rare. Very, very rare. You don't hear success stories of self-made persons. So the question, obviously, I would ask each one of you, and I'm sure that we'll have a Q&A session, is what do you want to do in life? Now, many of you would say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to be an architect. I want to be a businessman. Or I want to be a teacher. I rarely hear teachers these days because I don't think it's a great paid profession any longer. But knowing that my wife also worked for it as teacher, I can tell you this from a personal experience. But abroad, teachers and certain states in India, teachers are still given a lot of respect, even after they retire, and children meet them on the streets or somewhere else. So my question is, square pegs and round holes. Often, I heard numerous cases. I know doctors, friends of mine, engineer friends of mine, and I can give you one example. Is one Dr. Neeraj, who was in Hyderabad, who way back in the 90s got the first computers in Hyderabad and started a digital agency who produces digital presentations. And we were like looking at, Microsoft, what is Microsoft presentation? So Neeraj was a medical doctor, an MBBS to boot, and decided that no, he wouldn't be getting into a doctor's. The moment he finished his 5 years, he directly got into setting up a digital agency. And I have another friend like that, Ramakant, who was a doctor, who decided, no, I'm not doing that, I'm getting into branding. I know another friend's son who went abroad and did his medicine and came back and decided to start a bakery shop in Hyderabad, a top end one on that. So we're talking of square pegs and round holes, and I often appeal to children. And I wish this recording is taken to the parents, because the parents are the biggest culprits in the entire thing. They never ask the children, what do you want to do in life? I mean, we told our daughter, me and my wife, that do what you want. Because that's what my parents told me, do what you want. I went to do my hotel management, which is one of the toughest courses in India today to survive. And that is how we are. Today, we need to understand that, we are a nation of entrepreneurs. When I say entrepreneur, it doesn't mean that you have a business, you have a cabin, you have a huge factory. No, far from that. We are talking of entrepreneurship at a different level. Today, there are many companies which are shutting down because of this pandemic. We at HYDERABAD, we survived this pandemic. I can tell you this much, because it is very tough to survive, but we survived this pandemic because precisely the reason that we decided to think like an entrepreneur. We went after every small business that came our way. So let me say, self-sufficiency is our key. What do you want to be when you grow up? As I said, was my first question. So as I said, we are a nation of entrepreneurs. The panwala, the thelawala, your maid servant. Everybody is an entrepreneur today. If you go to a mall today, I mean, of course, I went to so many malls. Most of you wouldn't have ventured out, but I went to all the malls that were open. And everywhere it's empty. It's empty. That's it. And I'm really puzzled as to why people don't shop. But I see at certain shops, there are huge rush. But the biggies don't seem to have anything. Worldwide, the luxury market has collapsed. Okay? The Gucci's of the world, and the Marks and Spencer, everybody is down in the dumps. A lot of them have filed for bankruptcy. Which brings me to the question of, at the lower level, people know how to survive. Okay, this is very, very clear. We talked about migrant labor. The young lady who introduced me talked about migrant laborers. I was thick in the action. We served over 35 meals with my friends in Hyderabad with a very, very loosely knit Facebook group. We served 35 lakh meals over 2 months during the lockdown. Many of them are migrant workers, and many of them are talented guys. My question is, why does Telangana need a guy from UP or Bihar to come and lay tiles? Don't we have enough people here to lay tiles? Don't we have enough plumbers? And I can tell you this personal story of mine. My maid servant's son finished his 10th and came to me and said, "Oh, sir, I got a mithai ka dabba, I got my marks." And I said, "What do you want to do in life?" He said, "I want to become an engineer." I said, "There are hundreds and thousands of engineers walking around the roads of Hyderabad without a job who can speak better English than you, and you come from a village near Tupra on the outskirts of Hyderabad, and you say that you want to become an engineer." I said, "No, you won't make it in life. You'll just waste your time." I also suggested that he do ITI. He does a course in ITI. I sponsored him, and he went and did his ITI diploma in electrical. Later on, he learned air conditioning. Today, the guy is earning around 25 grand himself, and he's got 2 assistants with him who work with him, and he's just about something like 20, 23, 24. That's it. So my question is, think outside the box. Don't think that, job means a 9 to 5 job. This is typically what happens to us. And typically the Indian jugaad, as we call it, innovation. A lot of us don't even realize how innovative we are. We are a lot of innovative country. We find innovation at every street corner. The guy who makes an espresso coffee with a cooker, that is the guy who does jugaad. And I think if you go to the Twitter and read a lot about this, remember, we as a nation are a software power, as we call ourselves. We provide software services to the entire world. But can you name one software product that we made? One software product. A Google or a Facebook or a Twitter or an Instagram or a TikTok, anything for that matter. Show me one Indian software product, not service, product that we made. No, we didn't. But what happens? Many of these companies are hated by Indians who went out and, made the mark for themselves. I'll give another example. Not many of you youngsters would know how a drug is made. A pharma drug is made or a vaccine is made. We have a lot of things called drug intermediaries. That is basically, these are the powders that come in to make the drug finally, to make the tablets. But those tablets can be made only the drug intermediaries. At one time, Hyderabad was the capital of drug intermediaries. We had the IDPLs of the world, and then Dr. Reddy's came in, Standard Organics came in, a lot of companies came in. Suddenly we decided, no, that's a very low value product. We won't get into it. Okay, let us leave that aside. Let the Chinese do it. This is 20 years ago, 15, 20 years. The Chinese took it over. Today, India imports 90% of the drug intermediates from abroad, and 85% of that comes from China. We lost an opportunity. These are where entrepreneurship comes in. Why didn't we take it? Today we talk about the medium, small, micro, small, and medium segment enterprise, MSMEs, we call it. They are the biggest in the world. We have the biggest MSMEs in the world, number of MSMEs actually. And today the government of India is putting a lot of emphasis on that. The entire Atmanirbhar is all about that. It's about how the micro, so if you go to Balnagar or a Patancheru or a GD Metla in Hyderabad, those industrial estates, I walked around that. From the time I was in college to even now when I'm working as a professional in the media, I go there, I see that, and hundreds and thousands of companies, all of whom are actually doing something or the other, which are innovative, different. But this pandemic set everybody apart. Now let us take mobile phones. Okay, let me see my copy. Let's talk about mobile phones. Now, mobile phones, we all have them, Chinese mostly, but not Samsung here or something else from another country, but most of the phones were Chinese made. Okay, even the phone which I'm speaking to you right now was made in Vietnam, not in China, but the company is OnePlus, which is a Chinese company. Now, recently, the government of India said no. After the Galwan incident, tragedy where we lost 20 of our soldiers, the government of India said, no, why should a mobile, we are a country which makes rockets. We send satellites into space. We gone up to Mars and we done the Chandrayaan. Why can't we make something as simple as a mobile phone? The problem is we don't think that. We think if we make something, we're going to make it big. And today's youngsters in classes have to realize that you need to start small. You can't do everything big. All things started small way. The giant oak tree was an acronym at one time, and that's how they grow. That's what we need to understand. So now what happened? Now suddenly everybody says, oh, we can make mobile phones in India. Okay. The question I bring to you often is, how come Indians who go abroad make a mark for themselves? We have Satya Nadella of the Microsoft. We have Sundar Pichai of Google. We have Rajiv Suri of Nokia, whom I met at my daughter's convocation in Manipal. He's a product of Manipal Institute of Technology. Sandeep Mathrani of CEO of WeWork. Then we have Sanjay Kumar Jha, who started as the Chief Operating Officer of Qualcomm and then became the Chief Executive Officer of Motorola Mobility. Now my question to you is, how come these people, then the Shantanu Narayan of Adobe, everybody, there's a lot more of them. It's not that we don't have superstars in India. Okay, we have a company like Jio being built by a person called Mukesh Ambani, who was initially into petrochemicals. And I don't know how many of you know that. How did the word Jio come in? The Ambanis, originally, Dhirubhai Ambani started as a petrol bunk assistant in Aden, in Africa. I mean, the West Asia rather. So he started there as a petrol bunk, the guy who fills in fuel. Dhirubhai Ambani, that's how the story was made. So the story was oil. So if you put the oil into the mirror and look at it, the word comes out as Jio. That's how the word Jio was born. But look at the way Jio used their kind of brand equity to bring in billions during the pandemic. There's no other country which got thousands and thousands and millions of dollars from the likes of Facebook and Google during the pandemic. Okay, so there, okay, I can see a comment with somebody says a Paytm, but Paytm, great, but who are the investors in Paytm today? They're all the Chinese. We built a product. India is great at payments mechanism because I remember that we are great at making those kind of innovations. We built it. I admire that answer which came in from somebody. We also have the unicorns. We have the Bansuls who built the Flipkart, who challenged the might of Amazon and finally sold it off to Walmart at the right time and got out and made their billions. So we have the unicorn. Look at the Byju's. Okay, a guy who started as a tuition center chap and then today has just bought yesterday a company. He bought a small company for 300 billion. Small change. Okay, but he's worth billions today. Byju's Ravindran. That's his name. But I think it's the ability to think on one's feet. And this is where I fault most of youngsters. You all don't think on your feet. Most of you at least. Because you're so engrossed in marks. I was a very average student. Very, very average student. I just got 60% in my 10th class. Exactly 60%. Okay. I got a second class in my degree. I did my hotel management. I just scraped through. But I started as a waiter in a hotel in Hyderabad. One of the 5-star, that the only 5-star at that time, which is now called Taj Banjara at that time. But I made it in line. I done well for myself. I'm very proud of what I am. But I think that's what the culture that comes from your parents. It's the ability to say, why should I work as a waiter? I thought of that myself. My mother told me, sit at home and give more money. I said, no. The starting salary was 456 rupees, way back 1986. But that's fine from that. And I challenged myself. So I think that ability, say, I won't work. Because quite often in interviews, when I did interviews, I've recruited thousands of students in my course of my career in Times of India later on in Apollo. Often the question that a student asks me is, what is my salary? They won't even ask, what is my job in the first place? Or have you got selected? The first question is, what is my salary? Boss, first get selected, then we'll talk your salary out. I think that is the problem that we Indians are facing. From school to college to life, we are told that you have to win always. And my daughter had this problem. I mean, she was a school basketball captain and she never liked to lose a match. Even as the head girl of the school, she didn't like losing the election. She proved that the candidate who won had actually fudged the election. I mean, that's a different story altogether. But I told her one thing, and I think every parent should tell their children this, and every teacher should tell their students, learn the art of losing. Because only if you lose, only if you fall, you'll know how to get up and run. I'll give you a small example. The Israeli Commando Force, one of the best in the world, have only one rule when it comes to recruiting. Only one rule. And can you guess what that rule is? It says you should have failed in your life once, professionally, personally, financially, whatever it is. But you should have failed in your life once. If you failed in your life once, you'll always get up and know how to run. You learn from your mistake. Which is why when Madam Dubey asked me whether, Mrs. Dubey asked me whether we'd like to, what's philosophy in life? Anju Dubey asked me. So I said, ma'am, I have only one philosophy in life, and that is from a movie called Anand. Many of the youngsters here wouldn't know that movie. I'm sure the teachers know it. And that movie was had Rajesh Khanna and Amitabh Bachchan. Excuse me, I'll just. That movie had Rajesh Khanna and Amitabh Bachchan in that, and there was a dialogue in that movie which Rajesh Khanna often says to Amitabh Bachchan. He says, "Babu Mushai, zindagi badi honi chahiye, lambi nahi." That is that you should, whatever time that you are on the face of the earth, make an impact. Take Atmanirbhar, the great mathematician, brilliant man. How long did he live? In his 30s, and he died. But look at the impact he creates even today. Adi Shankara, he traveled up north from down south in Kerala, where he was born, up to set up a mart in Kashmir. Imagine those days walking from, the days when we didn't even have bullock carts, to walk from something like right from South India all the way to Kashmir. That's what it is all about. Then take Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, again, brilliant. If you hear his speeches that he made in the US and Chicago in the world on some religions and all that, amazing man. These are tall people. There are hundreds of such cases. I can go on and on. But the point is, there were also millions of people who were born during that time who lived. Do we know any of them? No. We don't know, because these people, these few names which I mentioned, these legends made a mark for themselves. Whatever they lived, 30 years, 35 years, they made a mark and they left. It created a lifetime of impression. See, that's what I'm saying. It is not what you did after living for 90 years in your life. The question is, did you make any difference when you lived during that time? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is extremely important. I'm addressing you as ladies and gentlemen because I believe today's kids are more mature than what we were. You have a lot more opportunities. So to be Atmanirbhar is to first sit back and think, what do I want to do in life? Write it down on a piece of paper. It can be just 3 words, 4 words, 10 words, 1. But have a focus in life. And then put that and say, how do I become Atmanirbhar? How do I become self-sufficient in that? And as a nation, if each one of you starts thinking like the way Bill Gates had thought, like the way Steve Jobs had thought, at a point in time in his life, when he knew that he was going to die, he still managed to create a mark for himself. And that is what I'm saying, is that each one of us needs to be Atmanirbhar. Because it's not a fancy word, Mr. Modi brought it out. He himself is an Atmanirbhar man. A gentleman, a young boy who sold chai in a railway station called Vadnagar in Gujarat, rose on to become the Prime Minister of the country. I mean, what can be a better example than this? It is not a political affiliation I'm putting on the table here, but I'm saying these are examples which say that you can do it. But the problem is 99% of us will end up in the dustbin of history. Nobody will even remember your name except for your family members and relatives. But if you want to be that superstar, which is why you see, everybody knows who is PV Sindhu. But there are thousands of others who wanted to be sports person, but the parents said, no. Padai karo pehle. Jo khelta hai, wo padta nahi. That's a logic we have. Imagine if Virat Kohli's parents had told him that. So that's the question I have for each one of you. What do you want to be in life? And then go after it. No matter what, go after it. Okay, that's how it is done. You need to have that, never say die spirit. And Atmanirbhar is nothing to do with money. People who have nothing have come up brilliantly. It is about how you think. What is your natural ability? And all of us seen this movie called 3 Idiots, in which we seen people who are square pegs in round holes. An engineer who wanted to be a photographer. I can tell you numerous cases like that who are going to become brilliant photographers. But then I'm not saying they fought with their parents, but they convinced their parents, saying, look, this is what I want to do. Because most Indian parents traditionally think, oh, my kid got 99%, but my neighbor's kid got 99.2%. What difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference. I can tell you in my career of recruiting, all my career of recruiting, I have recruited maximum number of people from the 65 to 70% mark bracket. Because I strongly believe they are the guys who can think, or they are the girls who can think. Whereas I've taken very few from the 90% upwards. It's not saying they're not good, they're good, but they're mostly bookworms. If we give them a straight-jacketed way of solving a problem, they'll solve it. But if you change the pattern, if you change it, then they'll collapse. This is typically what your Narayanas and Chaitanyas, if you will, teach you. They teach you only to run, like a horse with a blinker. You've seen a horse, it has got blinkers on both sides. Why? Because you're not supposed to look sideways, because it might go to the side. And this is what most of our youngsters are today. They're all wearing blinkers. And I'm challenging you on this, because I strongly believe that each one of you has a potential to be the next, I wouldn't call Bill Gates and Steve Jobs right now, because they are passé in terms of that. They are finished with that. But I could call it Elon Musk. A SpaceX that went up, joined up with ISS, came back and landed, splashed in the ocean. How many of you read that story? It just happened last week. I mean, these are brilliant people who created the product. There are thousands of engineers and scientists who work there. So I'm not saying everybody cannot be an engineer. A lot of we Indians have that mathematical ability in us. We have it in our blood that we are able to solve problems. We think logically and methodically. So you can't. I mean, my wife is a maths teacher, as I told you. So every time she's teaching somebody, I ask her, why is the kid not good? She says, because the kid doesn't think logically. The answer he or she knows the answer, but they don't know how to reach the answer. That is the problem with us. So I'm saying in life, as much as we all are, I think, ma'am, please correct me. I think I've run out of my time. So I will close and then I will take the questions if there are any, or let the other speakers also speak. So thank you very much. My idea of Atmanirbhar is very, very simple. Be yourself. That is the most important.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on what Atmanirbhar is. Warm greetings to everyone attending the webinar. And we've just heard Mr. Suresh's, views on what Atmanirbhar is. And my dear students, taking it a little forward from here, let me ask you, how many of you eat McDonald's burgers? I think we all do. We love it, right? What about the Bombay burger? If you're thinking, what is a Bombay burger? It is the yummy vada pav.
Sure.
And do you know how many vada pavs are sold per day? Google Baba says approximately 12.2 lakhs of vada pavs are sold each day. And imagine if we start making them in a clean environment, packaging it well, and selling in outlets like McDonald's. Do you think we'll be able to sell more? I think yes. What will be the impact further? It will create job opportunities, more profit locally. Does this mean that McDonald's will close? No. It will be an alternative for people, and both the businesses will flourish with equal opportunities. We need to spread this information, cheer for our successes, and get the world to recognize and appreciate it. Coming close to home, as Sir was just mentioning, the lockdown period has been a learning period. What have you learned here? I'm sure you helped your parents, tried your hands at cooking, cleaning, probably buying groceries from the local market, participated in household chores. How many of you learned how to fold clothes? It's a technical task, isn't it? Why this change? Many of us still are reluctant to call housekeeping staff at home due to the pandemic. I saw many people making pizzas, cakes, and whatnot at home, and not to miss the number of YouTube channels that have started and the stories that have been shared on social media. It's a revolution in a way, I'd say. Was it difficult? Maybe a little challenging, but those who tried surely became self-reliant and probably are improving day by day. What next? Share your recipes with your friends, give them some expert tips, lead them on a journey to become self-reliant. Well, this is how the change begins. What did we do at the school level? Beginning of the lockdown coincided with the commencement of the new academic session. And without any delay, Meridian School started online classes with teachers and students geared up to tackle anything that came their way. And then, I'd rather say since then, whether it was seminars or group discussions, competitions, school enterprise challenge, online have become a new normal. What is a school enterprise challenge? So I'd like to say we do things a little differently at Meridian Madhapur School. And since today we have an audience of students from across the country, people, teachers from across the country, I would like to share the enterprise work which our students started way back in 2017 by enrolling in for a school enterprise challenge. It's a UK based organization, Teach a Man to Fish. And we have enrolled for the program since 2017. We've been participating. And how this program has taught our students to become self-reliant. Just as you mentioned that the need is to step forward. It is not about that I want to become an engineer or I want to become a doctor. It's the journey, how you're preparing yourself for future. And I would share this journey along with some pictures. Give me a moment to share these pictures with you, and I will, narrate this whole story with. Yes. So green treasures, as you see the logo out there, the leaf with the keyhole is a one-stop souvenir shop, and it was born in the year 2017 with some students from grade 8 who came together and agreed that yes, we are going to work on this model of bringing up a sustainable business. And we are in 2020. I take pride in this, that yes, we did create a sustainable business. They said, we are learning, we are students, still. So they formed the motto, earn as we learn, serve as we earn. And with the mission, get up, green up, because they wanted the organization Green Treasures to make a difference, not just to the society, but to the environment too. So it was focused on the 3 P's: planet, people, and profit. We wanted it to be a profit-making entity so that students can learn real-time business nuances also. And from here on, we started our journey. The whole process started with business ideation, brainstorming on a lot of ideas. We laughed at a few ideas because they were really, we were like, can we really execute them? But then we also made note of so many ideas, discussed about the pros and cons of executing these ideas. And, ideas were like, I was amazed actually with the way the children came up with, ma'am, let's have a mobile library. Can we do organic farming in our school? Can we, make souvenirs? And so many of them. So we listed all of them. They created a questionnaire and they said, let's ask our customers, our students. So they went around, with the farm around the school, talking to the students, to the teachers, to the parents, to the residents in their communities to find out, we are thinking of this. Do you think it will work? So they took the feedback from them and, got everything in together, did the analysis, and we finalized on that, yes, we are going to make souvenirs. We are going to, but these souvenirs, how are we going to be different? How are we going to fight out competition? We are in a school, in an environment where we have a small audience, but this did not let our spirits down, I must say. We marched forward. From the results of the market analysis, the research analysis, we understood that these are the souvenirs that we can work with. But what else did we need? We needed the manpower, we needed the resources, we needed the startup cost. So the manpower, We had the students as the biggest manpower, and they were all excited and with enthusiasm to work on this project. Then resources. I'd like to say thanks to school management who came forward and said, yes, we will help you. But we said, along with the resources that what are available in the school, if we have to buy something, we will start, we will generate a startup cost for it. So these students got together right from grade 1 to grade 10. They, thought that what we are going to do is we're going to collect the old newspapers from everybody and get it to school, collect all of them, and then sell it to the recycle person. And that, Suresh said, I remember in 2017, we earned about 3,000 rupees as the startup cost, which was, just enough for us to buy those little things which we wanted to make the souvenirs for. You see, these children from grade 1 to grade 10 were involved, depending on their age group. Whether it was as tiny as making just a keychain out of the leftover wool at home, or it was small pieces of cardboard. Depending on the age groups, they worked on beautiful products. We made samples. Students did the costing. They actually tried to find out how much is going to be the expenses, what should we keep that as a margin, and how much should we sell it for? Because yes, we wanted to make it a profitable business. And these are few of the samples that we created. There was a unique product called Coats and Quills by Unsung Poets. We had a group of students from an underprivileged school who used to visit every Thursday for the Raising Readers program, where our students taught them how to read. And when the Green Treasures student looked at them, said, I think we can do a little more than reading. We can teach them how to write poetry. So there started a new journey of a new souvenir. We taught them, our students taught them how to write poetry. How, and not just one type of poetry, they taught 5 types of poetry. These are the glimpses of the session that took place. They taught them different types of poetry. They made them write. They edited the poetry, and then they put it all together in this book. Now, publishing itself was a learning for them. How much should be on one page? What should be the font size? What kind of pictures should we put? What is the costing going to be? Should we keep it black and white to bring down the costing? So they decided we keep the cover page as colored, and the interior of the book, we kept it black and white. The learning was immense throughout the journey of creating a souvenir like publishing a book. And I tell you, we've sold more than 200 books all across. It's available online on Amazon, Flipkart, and at the school premises also. While the ops team was working on the production, the finance team was working on the budgeting and writing the ledgers and preparing the expenses. The marketing team was working behind the scene, how to promote and create awareness for these products, because we were in the school and we had to reach out to the bigger audience. So these posters that you see, each one has a story behind. What colors should we put out here? What should we add out here to make it more creative? How can we reach? And yes, this was not printed at all. We used green advertising, we used parent portals, we used social media to advertise and reach out our customers. Now, till here it was fine. Came to actual sales. How do we do that? So our students did not lose out on any opportunity. They said, whether it was a fest time or a parent-teacher meeting or the festivals in the communities, we would take all. And there came the real sales scenario, where, as Mr. Suresh mentioned, that Success is enjoyable, no doubt about it. But failures definitely lead you to better success. And I'd like to, share a bit out here about a couple of incidents that are coming to my mind. When we went out for sales, there was at High Tech City for the Makers Fair. We reached the team along with the students and all the souvenirs and everything out there. And we realized that we were not registered for that particular day. We were registered for the next day. Now what to do? Either pack your bags and go back or find a way out. So these students went, spoke to the organizers, requested them and said, it's okay, we can't get a full cubicle to put up our stuff. Can you give us a table at least? We will manage it. And believe you me, we did. We got a table and we placed it, on the side of a pathway because there was no space in a cubicle for us, but we placed it on a pathway. And that turned out to such a big advantage for us because everybody who was going in or out had to cross the pathway. So these students did not give up. They stood there all day and did the sales and managed to sell beautifully and came back so happy that yes, we did not give up. We did. Another incident that comes to my mind is, we went for a community sale and it was pouring like cats and dogs. And I was like, I don't know how are the students going to manage to reach this place. But each one of them reached there. The parents helped them. Somebody took a cab, but they reached out. Of residents out there, they also took the challenge and arranged it in the basement. So they managed it and sold the souvenirs. So along with the success, there is lots that they learn: critical thinking, problem solving, negotiation skills, communication skills, and yes, our products are unique. They are made. And, the feedback from this parents, that led us to the improvisations that we did last 3 years. The journey did not stop here. We collaborated with schools abroad and in India. We had a tie-up with St. John's Universal School, Mumbai, Everline High School, Zimbabwe, where the students exchanged their views on what they were learning. They learned from each other. I remember Zimbabwe when we were trying to have connections, there were connectivity issues, there were power cuts that were happening out there. We said, no problem. Let's go through emails. So we shared our learnings through email. This taught us so much to students: networking, understanding the good practices of the different business ventures, communication skills, and performing at the global platform. Now, this is just a glimpse of how the students prepared before the market day. How they brainstormed, how they pulled legs. Acha, do you think this is going to work? No, I don't think this is going to work. Let's think of something better. Let's go forward and do something else. So many things. And this students did not even know about that I was clicking pictures. This is how a particular meeting would take place. They would put down the points of discussion and then they would deliberate on it. And then finally, now we have a consensus. This is how we to take this forward, the whole thing. But for any business to grow and sustain, it is important that we train the next line of students. So the students who were outgoing trained the new members. They did the orient, taught them how to create new product, all the different lines, gave them what they had learned, they managed to teach these students also. They gave them a mock exercise. Okay, now create the sales ledger, the purchase ledger, and conduct a mock selling session, and all kind of grilling happened there, you can imagine. This was another event that was managed by our students. And not just the students in the school, they trained housekeeping staff also. They empowered them. They involved them in the preparing of the souvenirs. They also tied up with the NGOs. We got, bags, jute bags from them, and our students painted them and sold them. With whatever little profits that we made, we shared it with our housekeeping staff. We bought things for them, and the pleasure that it gave to the students that yes, we've been able to make a difference to somebody was immense. And all through this, we worked also for community service. We participated and worked with GHME, partnered with the Nachiketa students, and made them our partners for Green Treasures. These are the laurels that the Green Treasures won. When we started in 2017, the logo was also designed, as I mentioned, by the students. This logo won the Best Logo Design Award across the globe amongst 150 entries over there. And our business plan was judged as the best business plan in Asia Pacific region. So every year we went a level up. 2017, we cleared the bronze level. 2018, we cleared the silver level. And now we are closing on the gold journey. We're just waiting. We've sent it for evaluation. The entire documentation and everything was captured and sent. We are waiting, and I'm sure we are going to be acknowledged for the gold level. So, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Suresh told, yes, we have students, we have teachers from across the country. This was just a snapshot of what all about, preparing the youngest generation, the youth of India, to become self-reliant. And that confidence, yes, nothing is impossible. Take a start, step forward. People will join you, and we will do wonders as a team of Indian nationals. We can go forward and make India proud. So this Atmanirbhar Abhiyan is the way forward. And I'm so happy that, yes, we started on our journey, and we've been working to make our students self-reliant all through. It is absolutely in line with vocal for local to a global, and we've reached global, and we wish that, yes, each one of us will make a mark out there. And in Shah Rukh Khan style, would like, to make and a comment and say, बड़े-बड़े शहरों में छोटी-छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं. आत्मनिर्भर बनो सिमरन. And this is a message that I would like to say all the students, teachers, that yes, please, let's take this mission forward and do whatever we can and, contribute to this success. Am I right, Mr. Suresh? What do you think about it?
I think that's a brilliant presentation. If you can just forward it to me after this particular Zoom call is over, it would be wonderful, because I can look through it in detail. And I'm sure that there's been a lot of learning.
Absolutely.
As you rightly said, a lot of children during this lockdown have learned things which they never knew they were good at. So did their parents, actually. For example, cooking was one such example that you gave. And I can tell you, a lot of my friends who are in the software industry have decided that, post the lockdown, they are not going to go back to their jobs. Some of them want to start a takeaway, either with a wife or a partner or something like that. And that's exactly the point, is that you have learned something that you are good at, but you never knew that you were good at that. Absolutely. And that is what I want to tell the children. You just sit back and say, am I good at painting? Can I make painting in the career? But your parents would shudder. Oh my God, How will you learn a living? How will you buy a house? How will you buy a TV? How will you buy a car if you're a painter? But remember, some of the greatest painters today earn millions. And that's what it is all about. It's about being best at what you do. You cannot be a cog in the wheel. You need, if you are doing something, be the best at it. Otherwise, don't do it. Simple as that.
Right, right. And Mr. Suresh, I would like to share out here and with all the, with the audience here at the webinar, that our students are not giving up yet. Though we are under lockdown, we are not able to conduct physical, going to school and making souvenirs and business. They are now thinking on online, subsidy of Green Treasures. We are, looking at online channels, and very soon we are going to be sharing this plan also, how we are going to take forward. Ms. Anju Dubey and the team is working very hard building on it, and we would like all of you to join on this.
I have only one suggestion, if you can take it at that. I studied in a government school. I studied in the Model High School of Usmania University, which is technically a government school. I'm proud of it. I never studied in a private school. The private schools were never there much in those days, in the 70s. But what I want to suggest is if your children can network with, say, a couple of government schools around your area. I mean, I know it's physically possible to go out right now, but I think they can do pretty well. I know a lot of schools in that area, Anjanagar Primary School in Kottagoda, that side, and then you have some more schools toward the Kalajoti side, toward the University of Hyderabad. As you go, there's some couple of government schools there also. I think these children in government schools also need to be recognized. I sponsored one such kid who's now grown up and is now into a graduation stage, Deepika from Anjanagar Primary School. I sponsored her from class 5. And many of you here would remember that in class 7, this kid, who doesn't even have a father, comes from Islam Anjanagar, Telugu medium, went on to win the Hyderabad spelling bee contest among about 3,000, 4,000 children. And that was wonderful. It was held in Tech Mahindra Auditorium. I mean, that is how brilliant children are, actually. They are hiding. They are in the unlikeliest of places. And I think children in Meridian and like in other schools also, including my own daughter, we are all born with a certain privilege. We have certain things that we don't ask for, but we get it.
Yes,
if there are children down there,
yes,
be given this opportunity, I think we should do it. That's my suggestion.
I would just like, I forgot to mention out there, but this has also been a part of our journey. Under the Seva project, we've had these kind of visits to the government schools. Our students have, made teaching aids, taken it to those schools, and tried to include these children in this project also. But yes, as you suggested, we will take it forward further from here on.
Thank you.
Yes. Anupama ma'am, back to you. Shravika, would you like to take it over? Okay. Maybe what we can do is...
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. The session is now open for questions and answers. So please go ahead, either type it in the chat box or raise your hand so we can unmute you.
I see a lot of questions already going on in the chat. Has been answering the questions. Very good, sir.
I would love to take some questions on the call because they seem to be more.
Absolutely. Please, yes, students, please go ahead. Anybody?
Can they raise their hands so that I can unmute them?
Yeah.
I think this is what happens when you ask questions. And I was a backbencher all my life. I never sat on the front bench, but I think children got to learn the art of asking questions.
Yes.
Because as they say, when you make a presentation and there's no question, two things can be assumed. The audience has understood everything, or the audience has nothing. So, I hope it's the former, not the latter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even the teachers can ask me questions. I mean,
yes.
Free to ask. I mean, anybody.
Yes.
For that matter.
Yeah. I think we all should make the best use of Mr. Suresh on board right now. We don't know when we'll be able to catch him again like this live.
No, I'm available anytime. I mean, I counsel children who are kind of cut up with the parents and angry with the parents or upset, and then they call me and say, "Uncle, can you help that child? She's having a problem," and I have a small call with them, and the problem gets sorted out. Simple. I mean, we need to talk. That's the main thing. And I'm sure that teachers here are more expert in this business than me.
Right. I think Tarun is unmuted.
There's a question from Statik which says, "Who is your biggest inspiration in life?" Yeah. My dad. Wow. He was an engineer in railways, the South Central Railway. He was the one who was involved in one of the bridges that was built across the Godavari, where you have the train and the bus trucks going on top of each other. He lived engineering. I mean, a very honest man, didn't make a single paisa illegally in his life. And he taught us that principle. He said, never ever do anything wrong. Never trade your self-respect for anything. And that's important to learn, because in everything, that's a problem that we have. That when we reach a stage in life where you're tempted with money and other temptations, usually we'll fall for it. And I think as youngsters, and I won't tell you this, that, there is something called ethics in life. It's very important. And we have seen the biggest of businessmen failing. We have the likes of Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, countless examples like that.
Correct.
But what sets apart others is the ethics part of it. So when you speak to a Narayan Murthy or a Ratan Tata, these are held up as legends. And that is what it is. I met Mr. Narayan Murthy when he was sitting in a 2-bedroom house in Bangalore as he was starting his company called Infosys. I'd gone for the first advertisement that he wanted to release in the Times of India, and I was working there. And that's how it is. And somebody asked me this thing, saying that we have a product called Tally, which is excellent. Tally is an accounting great product, used by a lot of companies, a lot of institutions. Bharat Shah is somebody I knew at that point in time. That's exactly what I'm saying. So please go ahead, ask the questions.
Sir, in the chat you said that has India ever made things like iPad? But didn't we have companies like Micromax which made tablets and which cater to audience which could not afford the iPad? Because iPad is not priced in a range which is afforded by everyone across the world.
I get it.
Micromax.
Yeah, I just took iPad as an example, that because most of the youngsters in this chat would be kind of immediately connected with what an iPad is or what an iPhone is. I just used it as an example. Yes, definitely. We need the Micromax of the world to go. That's exactly what Atmanirbhar is all about. What Mr. Modi is saying. And I was speaking to a lot of industrialists who were saying, why compete with China? Look at Germany as an example. The Germans are the best engineers in the world. They make the best cars in the world. Your BMWs and the Mercedes are engineering marvels. And many Indians work there. And this is exactly what I'm saying, that you youngsters need to understand that we need to make world-class products. I'm not saying each one of you will go tomorrow and make a world-class product. No. What I'm saying, at least you are a part of it, you tried doing it. That is extremely important, because we don't have anything to boast of. Somebody said we made Finacle. Yes, I'm aware of Finacle, because again, I was there when Finacle was made by Infosys. But we never took it global. They tried taking it global. They faltered somewhere. But I can give you an example. We make the best vaccines in the world. We have if you go to, I don't know how many of you have gone to the Shamirpet side. I think I would suggest, ma'am, to the school management to take the children, at least the class 11 and 12 children, to Bharat Biotech, the Shapoorji Pallonji Park, the Indian Immunological, which is there in the university, which is pretty close to your school actually. And, things like that. These are places where children need to go, because you can see scientists, you can see some Nobel laureates working there. And these are exactly, we make the best vaccines in the world. Be it polio, be it typhoid, now we are making it for COVID-19. How did we do it? How do we bring the molecules to the market? That means we are brilliant. The only problem is we are brilliant in certain ways. We are not brilliant in all ways. What I'm trying to say is that we got into that. I'm not blaming you children for it. The problem is we parents. The problem is with us, because we want our children to realize our dreams. As I said before the start of this, I couldn't get into an IIM, so I want my daughter to get into an IIM. I couldn't do an IAS, so I want my kid to do IAS. This is what most parents do. They force their children to realize their dreams, but they don't ask them what you want to do in life. So I'm saying, not everybody who will go and make a product tomorrow. Their needs, where Mr. Narayan Murthy rightly said, if everybody becomes an engineer or doctor, who will fly the planes, who will run the trains? We need people for everything. We need people. What needs to understand is the demand and supply part of it. We need to make world-class products. Atmanirbhar Abhiyan is one such attempt at making world-class products from India. And that's what I'm coming to in this particular talk.
Sir, it looks like there are some more questions in the chat box.
Okay, I'm sure, I don't know, you please check with your principal and others whether we have enough time. I have time, no issues on that. It's a Saturday for me, so I can go on and on, but I've got a couple of news to read, but I can wait.
Sir, we can take 1 to 2 more.
Sure, please go ahead, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read it out. This question is by Hridayashri. What should be the main motivating factor for entrepreneurship, and what actually is it according to you?
Ability to take risk, ability to fail. 95 to 98% of the startups will fail. And that's where we are scared that we will fail, so we don't even try. Doesn't matter. I know some of you can just go up and Google Yamuna Shastri. She runs an organization called Cab Dost, which started by filing income tax return for cab drivers, because every trip the driver was being deducted 10% as TDS, tax deducted at source. She came to me about 5 years or 6 years ago, and she's from Bangalore. And once I was traveling there, and she said, "Sir, can you come and see my office?" I said, "Wonderful." And it was pretty evening, it was raining, and I reached Malleshwaram in Bangalore. And there she was standing in front of a 10 by 10 room with a shutter and said, "This is my office." I mean, from that stage, Yamuna Shastri has traveled along. She has now set up what is now arguably one of the best social interventions, if you can call it that. She was invited by President Trump's daughter to speak at the Hyderabad GC conclave. She was invited to Paris to speak again at the same conclave, the GC conclave. And you know who the other speaker was from India? There were only 2 speakers, Nirmala Sitharaman and Yamuna Shastri. This girl comes from a middle-class family. And that's what it is all about. What did she do? She didn't make a great entrepreneur. She made a revolution in that. And today she gets invited everywhere. She gets invited to talk at colleges, the startups, the other scholar, the investor scholar. They said, "Can you sell your company to us?" She said, "No, I don't want to sell my company." So this is what it is. Realizing dreams. And I think, as you said, right, the ability to take failure. Doesn't matter. You will fail. And that's what, get up and run again. That's how a child learns to walk. Because every time the child falls, if you look around, if you see how a child looks when he or she falls, when they're small, they first look around to see if their parents are nearby. When the parents are nearby, they start crying. But if they don't see their parents nearby, they just dust themselves and start walking again. And that is what needs to be done. Most of us are stuck. We hold on to our parents' coattails, or whatever we can call it. In Indian parlance, we hold on to our mom's pallu. And that's what we are. We need to get out of that. We need to take the ability to take risk. And the society also, parents, my request, I don't know how many parents are on this show, but please allow your children to fail. I'm not saying fail in an exam or something like that, but fail in some other life, because then they realize what failures are all. At least teach them what failures are all about.
Yeah.
What happened to Abhimanyu in Mahabharata is a great example. Mahabharata is a management priest. There's so many characters in Mahabharata. My popular character is Karna, who was actually on the wrong side. But brilliant people who failed. Abhimanyu knew how to enter, not how to exit. That's a problem. So the ability, if you ask me, it's all one word. It is the ability to learn to fail. If you know what it is failure, you will succeed. That is the most important thing for being an entrepreneur.
Okay, so there seems to be a lot more questions, but unfortunately we're running short on time. So
I will answer them, no problem, as much as I can. Otherwise, I can take it offline. You can send me those questions, and if there is a wire media to answer it, I'll be more than glad to answer it. I can spend hours on it. No issues. I love it.
Okay.
We can probably take the email IDs and send them across the answers back.
So now I'd like to call upon a few students to give their views and reflections on today's webinar. So first, Manmeet, would you like to go ahead? Manmeet?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Starting off with what Sir said, as I am a BSc Business Studies and an entrepreneurship student, listening to a lot of stories where people start from nothing and become millionaires. If the nation wants to become self-sufficient, we all need to start at a personal level and to become something and to become Atmanirbhar. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for telling all that. Thank you, sir, for telling that we all need to start from somewhere. And thank you, ma'am. It was amazing to listen to Meridian's entrepreneurial success story in so much detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandit. So are there any other attendees who would like to share their views? If so, please raise your hand so we can unmute you.
I think Satvik Kala is waiting to, he's put his video on, and if Sirisha ma'am can just unmute him, he would like to share, I think, his reflection is.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thanks for giving the opportunity to speak. As like personally, I'm more into, my interest is that not only like go in entrepreneurship and business studies, but even know that about many entrepreneurs around the world. Like my personal inspiration, I would like to say, is Elon Musk. The inspiration that he has given me, that he has teach me that ultimate capability of human mind, that it can start a new world for us.
Correct.
That's the thing that I learned from him.
True. Extremely good. I think a lot of you should read about Elon Musk and what he does and how he failed in numerous things before he succeeded in whatever he's doing.
Yeah. That he's not only thinking about like his technology development and entrepreneur side, but even for humanity and Earth's welfare as well.
True. Absolutely true.
Sir, so right now, like after reading his story, even I like felt a bit motivated that even something unique is there in me which wants to come out.
Very good.
Yeah. And currently my main focus is that, is it okay that I share my personal incidents?
Oh, yeah. I don't know, you can check with your principal and your teachers whether we have time for that.
Yeah.
And then we can
no, it's just a few minutes.
Anupama ma'am?
Okay, Satvik.
Yes, ma'am. So my current focus is that I have to build my character, means take myself to the next level, make a new version of myself, and know that what's my strengths, like my interest, abilities, capabilities, and potential, and what really I can contribute to this world, and how much like I can spread positivity and happiness to this world. Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
Satvik. Ma'am, he's an extremely, he used to be an extremely introvert student.
Yeah.
By reading all these inspirational stories of recent and young budding entrepreneurs and established entrepreneurs, he's trying to take the tips and trying to transform his life. So he keeps on sharing with us.
Yes.
Very good, dear.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Satvik. On behalf of all the students joined today, Siddharth would like to give a vote of thanks. Siddharth, please go ahead.
Can you tell me the username of Siddharth?
I believe it's Sid's iPhone.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Siddharth Gupta from class 12th, Meridian School, Madhapur. Guys, I hope it was a really informative and fascinating day for all of us gathered over here. And firstly, I would like to thank Mr. Suresh Kochatil sir for sparing his precious time and giving us the facts and knowledge about the recent package which has been initiated by our government. A heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Monica Arora ma'am as well for her valuable guidance and ideas that she enlightened us with. A special thanks to our school management team, our principal, Dr. Snigdha Sachdeva ma'am, vice principal, Mrs. Sai Sanchesdi ma'am, academic coordinator, Mrs. Sunita Saripalli ma'am, commerce and humanities department head, Mrs. Anupama Sahani ma'am, and also the team of other teachers for their valuable guidance and helping us learn to become Atmanirbhar. And at the last, I would like to thank all the participants from different organizations and school for joining here with us today. And I hope you all had a great takeaway from this webinar. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day. Have a successful journey in life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would like to call upon Anupama ma'am to give a vote of thanks on behalf of Meridian. Ma'am, please go ahead.
I'm extremely grateful to Suresh Kochatal sir. It was a treat hearing you. Mrs. Monica Arora ma'am, one of my most famous, my personally favorite speaker. I have always loved to hear you, ma'am. And today, even I'm taking home few tips from this webinar. Yes, I do agree. When we say Atmanirbhar, self-reliance, it must begin from home. There is no age to it. There is no degree or a course to it. It can begin from an age of 5-year-old child when we start training him to do his small, small petty activities and helping his mother or dad at home chores. So he is becoming Atmanirbhar, and surely he's going to get into a great entrepreneurship. Needless, he's into a business, he's into a job, profession doesn't matter. Atmanirbhar is in our thought process, what I personally feel. And to sir as well, seeing the pressure and the panic which young generation nowadays take to their heads of coming forward, having a winning spirit behind, and if they're not able to make it, surely they fall into a wrong path. So accepting failures, I believe, is a key to success only. It's a milestone to success. So all the students and the young generation here with us today, hopefully are taking back home very useful, very enriching tips today. Thank you very much, sir and ma'am, for your precious time. On behalf of Meridian School Madhapur, we are extremely indebted to have you here on this platform. Looking forward to more good and enriching experiences from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely our pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure sharing it with you, sharing the stage with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kochatal and Mr. Arora, for an informative and productive session, and also to all the attendees who joined us today. We will be sharing the feedback form link in the chat box, so please fill that out and you will receive your certificates within 48 hours. So,
and the recorded version of the webinar will also be available. Yes? Yeah.
Yeah. So now if we were having this presentation live and at school, we'd take a group picture, but considering the circumstances and us having a meeting online, I request all of today's attendees to switch on their cameras for just a minute so we can take a picture. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a nice day and stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.